reported that Amazon made over $11 million last year, and that they paid zero in federal taxes. We need a tax code that expects more from the very wealthy and from big corporations. Because for the last 40 years, we've gone in the direction of expecting less, but expecting more from the hardworking middle class, and that needs to change. What also needs to change is that we need to get serious about the long-term threats that we face. My first executive order as president on the afternoon of January 20th, 2021 will be to recommit the United States to the Paris Climate Accord. Maybe more importantly, to follow that up with legislation that invests in sustainability. When I was mayor of San Antonio, I was on the board of the local public utility. Many of y'all have, I don't know whether y'all have a public utility here. If you do, they're wonderful, oftentimes compared to these investor-owned utilities. But we started to move away from our coal-fired plants and toward renewable energy. And I was happy to lead that effort. I believe that we need to move in the same direction in the United States. I like this concept of the Green New Deal. I know that there's been a lot of misinformation about it. Fundamentally, what it means is that we can both protect our planet and grow jobs and economic opportunity. We don't have to choose between those two things. We can do both. In the same way, we don't have to choose between border security and compassion. Texas on the border to this place called the Ursula Processing Center. And it was one of these places where they're physically separating children from their family. And as horrendous as that zero tolerance, so-called zero tolerance policy was, what inspired me was that the activists that I was there to join, they were white, they were black, they were Asian American, some of them were Latino like me and like the kids that were being held. You could tell that the values that we shared with people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, are stronger than the division that this administration is trying to cause. And I believe that on January 20th, 2021, at 12:01 p.m., we're going to have a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate. 2010 on immigration reform is don't wait. So we're not going to wait this time. I believe that we can get it done. Let me just say finally that in this campaign, we're not just going to talk the talk, we're going to walk the walk. I'm not accepting any PAC money, corporate or otherwise. Lobbyist money. So you can know if I make a decision, that decision is being made because I believe that it's in the best interest of our country, of the American people, and not because a whole bunch of folks gave money in my campaign. We're paying our interns and everybody at least a minimum wage of $15 an hour. We're the unionization of our campaign staff if they want to unionize, because campaign staffs are beginning to do that. And I think that it's important that we support them in that effort. I got my first test in politics very early. I told you that I was 26 when I got home and I ran for city council. I took a job with a law firm. I was making $100,000 a year at that time in 2000. It was the biggest law firm in town. And then I got elected 9 months later to the city council. And at the time, the city council paid only $20 per meeting. The most we could make was $1,040 a year. Yeah, and it was already a city of over 1 million people. And the charter had been in place since 1951. It was ridiculous. So, I mean, first of all, that keeps a lot of people from being able to run in the first place, right? And I think it may have been designed that way originally. But everybody had to have another job, or your spouse supported you, or you retired and didn't return income. I worked at this law firm. Well, a few months after I got elected, they got a client that wanted to do a land deal that needed city council approval. And the land deal that they wanted to do was to build a golf course over our water supply. And there were a couple of other golf courses already, so it's not like it was completely unprecedented. But for this one, I didn't think that their environmental plan was strong so I believed that if it didn't change, that the use of fertilizers and chemicals, other things they would pump onto the golf course would compromise the integrity of the drinking water. So I wanted to vote against that deal. And my constituents wanted me to vote against that deal too. At the same time, under the professional rules of conduct for lawyers, and it's probably the same here in Iowa, you can't go against the interests of the client. So I was conflicted. My constituents were asking me, what are you going to do here? Aren't you going to represent us? And we want you to vote against it. At the same time, my livelihood depended on me basically shutting up and staying put. And so one day in January of 2002, I walked into the law firm and I quit my job. And then I went and I voted against that land deal as a city councilman. Before I ever went into politics, I wondered whether you could succeed in politics and still be who you are. Right? You hear that politics can be dirty or corrupting. And I worried that I would have to play the game or change or, give in to people that often get their way, whether it's at City Hall or wherever you serve. And I was happy that I was able to pass that test and do the right thing. My house went into foreclosure in the foreclosure process. I had no collectors calling me. I'm sure some folks have probably had that experience. It's not a pleasant one, right? It's when you like caller ID the least. Little by little, I got myself back on my feet. I had my law degree. My brother and I had our own little law firm, and then I worked for another firm. And so I was fine. But I share that because there's nobody against tested form than the President of the United States. And I want you to know that if I'm elected president, that I will work hard every single day so that you and your family can have good health care when you need it, so that your children and your grandchildren can get a good education, so that you can have good job opportunities no matter where you live. And I'm going to go and visit every single state. I pledge to visit all 50 states during this campaign. This is my third trip to Iowa. I'm not just going to the big cities. I've also been to places like Orange City, both places that are bright blue and a lot of them that are bright red. I'm going to go and speak to everybody. After I announced, it's customary for folks right after their announcement to come to Iowa or New Hampshire. And you'll have to excuse me, but I went to San Juan, Puerto Rico. The reason I probably did that was because I wanted to deliver a message to Puerto Rico, to the people of that island, that everybody counts in this country. And that if I'm elected president, we're not going to forget about them or anybody else. I was in Idaho and in Utah a couple of weeks ago, and if I'm elected president, I will work hard to reach across the aisle. I'm progressive, but I also believe in working together with others to get important things done for our country. And I know that I'm not the front runner right now in this race. I mean, y'all have like 15 or 16 people running, and it often feels in these gatherings like the first 2 weeks of a college semester where folks are shopping around, right? But I wasn't born a front runner. I didn't grow up a front runner. I bet there are a lot of folks in this room that didn't grow up a front runner, and a lot of people in America and in Iowa that don't feel like a front runner. And I'm going to work hard like all of us do. And I'm confident that as I deliver a message of making sure that no matter where somebody is in life, that they can prosper and reach their dreams in this country too. That by the time February 3rd comes around next year, and y'all go to caucus, that I can be a front runner with your help. Thank you very much.
In 2008, this is suburban Cedar Rapids, and Cedar Rapids had a major flood, and lots of the houses in Cedar Rapids were underwater, literally. And then the recession hit the year after that. I lost my job and all of that, and and people were dealing with HARP and things like that.
that is what a lot of those programs were intended to do, and I do think they did a lot of good work, right? There are ways that we can go further, but it also points to the continued need to invest all across the board in people's ability to find affordable housing, right? Whether it's community development block grants or home funding or what's called continuum of care funding that essentially addresses homelessness, because we've seen a spike in unsheltered homelessness in many cities across the United States in the last couple of years. Across the board, I would support the ability of people to live in a safe and decent place. And some of the most disturbing or distressing things I see right now are that economists are predicting that we might be headed for another recession. We all have seen this, right? In late 2019 or 2020, obviously all of us hope that that is not the case. But the lesson going forward is that these programs need to be completely focused on the ability of people to control their own destiny, to hold on to their assets, and also to support communities to create more housing opportunities so that people can have a place to live and they don't end up homeless. I think I told, yeah, back there, and then we'll go here.
As Commander-in-Chief and Head of State, what are your challenges and opportunities as you see them?
In terms of foreign policy, simple things. First of all, the next president is going to have a lot of cleanup work to do after this. There are a whole set of alliances, especially post-World War II alliances, that we have forged that have kept the United States stronger, safer, more economically prosperous. And this president has taken this go-it-alone approach in so many different ways, whether it's this erratic trade war with China, and you all see here in Iowa the bad effect of that, or at the G8 summit, or just in the personal relationships with the leaders of countries like Germany and France and other nations. The first thing that I would do is commit myself to repairing those relationships, putting those relationships back in place, and refocusing our efforts, getting everybody on the same page to address the challenge with trade with China, and also a rising threat from Russia. And I think what will be complications related to China as it grows stronger and stronger militarily. I'll give you an example of that. The president has said, I guess 6 or 7 weeks ago, that he wants to withdraw from the ICBM treaty. There's a 6-month window to do that, but assuming that the United States does that, and Russia has already said that they will do that, assuming that happens, the approach that I would take is to see how we can reset that kind of treaty that might now include a country like China, which in the years to come is rising as a military power. So we have to take advantage in the future of the situation that this president has left us in, but with a general eye toward repairing those relationships. I also would look for new ways that we can make our country stronger. I believe that it's time for the 21st century equivalent of a Marshall Plan in Latin America. Right? We have a whole bunch of people from these Northern Triangle countries, from El Salvador, from Guatemala, from Honduras, that are showing up on our doorstep, 100,000 people last month. Why are they showing up on our doorstep? They're showing up on our doorstep, and these are mothers with babies. These are not single men. It used to be single men that were looking for work, just looking for work, mostly from Mexico. Now it's families, mothers with children from these countries in Central America. Why in the world, if you're a mother, why would you go thousands of miles and take a dangerous journey with a very vulnerable young child like that, an infant, unless you're truly desperate? We need to forge alliances so that they can find safety and opportunity in their home country, because they want to stay in their home country if they can do that. Right? And I know that's easier said than done, because the United States has a checkered history with a lot of these Central American countries, and there are Central American strong men also in some of those countries that use the United States as a foil, right, to prop up their own popularity. But it is worth the effort, it's worth the try to establish a new partnership with especially Central America so that we mutually benefit. Let me address also the issue of trade, which I know is important. I believe that the United States has to compete around the world. I think that if we look at trade agreements, that we should always look at it with an eye toward how does it benefit, first and foremost, American workers, and then American companies. Right? And then how does it open up markets for American companies overseas? So we have to be tough in terms of our labor standards, environmental standards, and also the ability to enforce against countries that cheat on these agreements. I'll say, though, that I'm not unilaterally against trade agreements. I believe that they can be good for the country if we do them right. I would take a strong position, but I wouldn't put those things off the table because I think that we can come out ahead in some instances. Y'all see that here in Iowa. There are a lot of farmers that are being hurt. Their bottom line is being hurt because of this erratic trade war with China. If we're going to go up against China, we need to marshal support around the world for that and do it with a more unified and a stronger voice than just going at it alone. That's the difference that I would take. I think I told her I would go, and then go ahead. Yeah.
I recently retired from a very rewarding career in international education and higher ed, so I'm very interested in foreign diplomacy, and specifically Latin America and specifically Venezuela. I know every Democrat will say you don't need to be militarily in there, but I'm curious, from hearing from all the candidates, and especially you, what would be your strategy to getting humanitarian
Like gray hair and sides and a beard.
Well, I believe that we should support humanitarian efforts, and these are mostly through nonprofits, humanitarian efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to a country like Venezuela, where people, I read the statistic that the average Venezuelan had lost more than, I don't want to be incorrect here, so they've been adults but not children, but the statistic was about how much weight the average Venezuelan had lost. It was like over 10 pounds.
Yes.
Because people can't find the food. Their diets have been completely reduced. Right? People have been starving. There's desperate circumstances for a lot of Venezuelans. So I completely support the delivery of humanitarian aid. I also, frankly, I'm not shedding a tear for Maduro based on what he's done, because he has acted in some ways more like a dictator.
Yes.
Right? I don't think that the United States can ever be seen in that country as trying to install its own head of state. That's not our role. And I certainly don't think that we should move in militarily in Venezuela. But we should work with other nations to be able to deliver humanitarian aid. We should exert our influence to move whichever administration continues forward there, and it may be Guaido in the future, to embrace democracy, embrace transparency and accountability. And again, these are long-term goals. They're not going to happen overnight. But to be able to deliver to the people of Venezuela the opportunity that they deserve. That's important for them. That's important for the many family members who live in places like South Florida, in New York, in many other communities in this country. Here in Iowa, I'm sure. So that's the approach that I would take.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Foreign policy. I heard you talking about, just now about humanitarian aid in Venezuela and how the people were losing weight because of it. I'm not sure if you understand or you know this, but Gaza is under Palestinian, or is under Israeli control, and they have only let a substantial Palestine with the 1966 borders. And I wondered if you could support that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Well, first of all, you're right that I do believe that a two-state solution is the ultimate answer. You're correct that that's been made harder and harder. They have elections coming up in Israel, as you know, right? You know, I've said, frankly, that I'm not convinced that under Netanyahu that they're going to get there, and that it's become more and more difficult in many ways to reach that two-state solution. I agree with what Secretary Kerry said a few years ago that, you know, and I say this as a strong supporter of Israel. I visited Israel. I think it's an amazing country in many ways. That Israel can either be a Jewish state or a democratic state. I agree with that statement, and that's why a two-state solution makes the most sense. But that's gotten harder as more settlements have happened. I believe in human rights. I think everybody's entitled to that. That's obviously not groundbreaking, but it's something that should be said with regard to the Palestinians as well. That they should be able to reach their full potential as human beings, as individuals. You know, I applaud the concern, the growing concern that people have for Palestinians in the United States and around the world. I don't support BDS. I don't believe that that's the best approach to take. I would use as president leverage that we have to try and move Israel in the right direction. My hope is that we're going to have leadership that wants to go in that direction as well. However, I also...
We've been doing that for 60 years, with all due respect.
Well, I also don't support it. I think this is part of the question too, based on what was on the list. There are some who want to shut down completely the ability of an American to express their support for BDS. I see this as a free speech issue. You know, I am not against somebody that wants to express that support. I believe that people should be able to express that support, that that's a free speech right. I will, I think, work at this with more tenacity and more sincerity than this president has, because he's been talking about doing something in the Middle East now, putting Jared Kushner in charge of it for the last 2 years. And, you know, and I say that respectfully because it may well be that they come up with something.
Do you know what they come up with? As you can see, they come up with giving Jerusalem to Israel, and also now the Sinai, not the Sinai, Golan Heights to Israel.
But, you know, so far, you know, we haven't seen, we may see something else, who knows? But my point is that our relationship with Israel is an important one, and in so many ways it is a beautiful country, it's a beautiful people, and so too are the Palestinians. Right? I have never believed that the Palestinians are a group of people that solely want to hurt Israel. So I will work hard to find that two-state solution and for a basic respect of human rights and allowing people to reach their full potential. That goes to this issue of rehabilitating somebody. And y'all know that everybody benefits from this. One of the biggest things we have is recidivism, right? When people get out and then they commit a crime and they come back in. That's one reason for folks to support more of a rehabilitative aspect so that you reduce crime in the long run as people do not commit a second crime or third crime. All right? One more question. Yes, sir.
Thank you for attending the Rural Forum in Storm Lake yesterday. And, you know, that really helped us get attention to the rural issues. And I wish there had been more candidates that attended. On the other hand, only one candidate mentioned the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill is really the biggest thing, maybe 10 times bigger than anything else on that. And now, are you someone who could be a leader on the Farm Bill, or would you have to concede that to other candidates? And are you, you know, the Democrats in the Congress, and then when the Republicans come along, would you concede it to them? Because they have terrible Farm bills. And too many of the Democrats have gone on to a Republican Farm bill instead of a true Democratic Farm bill. And by the way, you missed the chance at the forum talking about immigration to say something about the fact that we're losing money on corn over decades, exporting to Mexico, losing money on it to then create a devastate rural Iowa and then create an immigration crisis. Yeah. You missed that.
Thanks for the question.
The Farm Bill. You lead on the Farm Bill?
Well, let me say this. First of all, I'm a city boy. You know, like I grew up in the city, I'll readily admit.
And Jesse Jackson did meet on the farm bill.
However, one of the most fascinating things to me, not just this year, but over the last several years, has been to learn more about rural America, including here in Iowa. And what I look forward to doing during the course of this campaign, because as I said, like all the candidates, I'm going to be back a lot, is to learning, listening, is better understanding, and making sure that if I'm elected, that we pass legislation that's fully in the interest of rural communities and of farmers, especially family farmers here in Iowa. And so I'm committed to that. I believe that I can lead. If I didn't believe I could lead, I wouldn't be stepping out running for president.
We'd love to see you do that.
But you know, I also have a lot to learn, and I'm willing to do that, and I look forward to it. And so I was happy to be there at the Heartland Forum. It was a great event, and thank y'all for having me.
Do you have policy staff here today?
Yeah, we have staff members here. Our policy person's not here, but we have staff members who can connect you with me. Hey y'all, so I know, like I said, this is like people shopping at the beginning of the college semester. For those of y'all that are supportive of my candidacy already, obviously I would love to get your support and have you caucus for me. We have Cynthia and Marika, Cynthia our state director, and Marika our organizing director. Derek Eden, who used to organize around here, is our please find them, or me. For those of y'all that are still thinking about it, thank you for thinking about it. And I hope that you'll at least spread a good word about my candidacy. Like I said, I'm going to work hard, and I believe that we can do great here in Iowa when the time comes. Thank you very much.